Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.
Roach, and I listen to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast.
Indeed you are, people. Indeed you are. Welcome back to another small edition episode of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I've got a sweet in my mouth. I should really have swallowed that before I even started this show. But we move. We have to keep moving. My name is Machel St. Patrick Coote, one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, and welcome back as ever. This one's going to be... no more than 20 minutes, people. It might even be, it should be less than that. So hold on, people. It's another quick one I'm serving up here. Earlier today, I got a message saying, Mash, how comes you haven't done a video on the Team Weeks versus Team West Indies game in the Headley Week series? I said, don't worry, it's coming. It's coming. For those of you who aren't in the UK, it's bank holiday weekend. So, you know, it's generally speaking a family time and all of that. People go to visit their peoples and so on and so forth. So I've kind of been off the radar for a bit over the weekend and whatnot. So that's why I haven't done anything in the last 3 days. But I'm here now. Ready to drop the details, ready to drop the analysis and so on and so forth. So let's get to it. A couple of days ago. How long ago was it, in fact? When did that game finish? 1, 2, 3. Finished on Saturday. So it's about, 2 days ago. We had the second game of the 3 in the Headley Weeks series. And it ended in a draw. It was very much a rain-interrupted match. To put in perspective, Team Weeks batted once, Team Weeks batted once, the West Indies Academy batted once, and then Team Weeks, when they came round to bat for the second time, only faced 41 overs, and then the match was called off. So it was heavily rain-interrupted on across the whole match. So the game was never in doubt in terms of a result happening. So we kind of have to see it in that regard. And I say that to begin with because I don't think there's a lot you can read into this match because of the fact that rain interrupted it. I think we have to be very, very cautious about delving into hot takes and saying, oh, it means this and it means that and so on and so forth, because like I say, there wasn't too much action for us to really kind of stick our teeth into and say, right, and now this and so on and so forth. But what I have done is I've called this video something I've labeled it and forgotten already what I labeled it as I'm recording it because it's not on my screen. But effectively, this video is looking at whether the West Indies Academy, whether the future is bright. And obviously the hot take based on the 2 matches thus far, obviously West Indies Academy beat Team Headley. They've drawn with Team Weeks. Team Headley and Team Weeks have the experienced pros on their side. So the hot take is to obviously go, the future is bright. Yes, we've got some talented youngsters coming through. Kevlon Anderson hit a century last week. Johan Lane took a 5-fer. Naeem Young chipped in this match that's just gone against Team Weeks. Mackenzie hit a double ton. Kevin Wickham his maiden century as well. So the obvious hot take is to say, yes, the future is bright, and all we have to do now is blood the youngsters from the West Indies Academy and so on and so forth. And that's just what I kind of want to just look at in a bit more detail. First things first, 100%. The performance once again from Team West Indies Academy was fantastic in so much as Team Weeks batted first. They made 400, I think it was 401. Yeah, they made 401 batting first. And yes, as compared to what happened with Team Headley the week before, it was a much stronger batting performance from the senior pros. And I think the West Indies Academy was certainly put through their paces a lot more. Zachary McCaskey made 93 at the top of the order. Brandon King, who a lot of people are looking forward to watching in this match, duly showed why so many of us, I say so many, some of us have been calling for him for time to get a chance at test level. He made a very fluent 92 before nicking off to Imlach off the bowling of McKenny Clark. Kevin Sinclair batting at number 7. He made 86. He looked really good carrying on his domestic form that he showed with Guyana. And Jamal Hamilton, the wicketkeeper, he made 57 as well. So certainly from a bowling perspective, the West Indies Academy were far more up against it. They came across, and everyone always said it, that Team Weeks had the better batters compared to Team Headley. So they came up against a far more tough opposition. They had to work harder to kind of prize out wickets. But that notwithstanding, I thought Naeem Young was very disciplined with the ball, like he was in the first match. Naeem Young took 3 for 91 in that first innings. Ashmead Ned was very, very frugal with his bowling once again. Hasn't really got any wickets, but he's bowled wicket. He's kind of bowled really tight wicket to wicket bowling across these two matches, and he went 22 overs, none for 39. So although he didn't pick up any wickets, I do think he's to be applauded for keeping it so tight. And as a result, you could argue that Ned built pressure. Just double checking if Ned took any wickets at all. Sorry. Yeah, Ned hasn't taken any. Oh, is that 1 second, people? Let me just double check if Ned. I think he might have taken 2, maybe 1. Yeah, Ned's taken 2 wickets across the 2 matches, and it's harsh because he's bowled better than that. But has his bowling been threatening enough? Potentially, you could argue no, but it's certainly been tight. His economy across the 2 matches, he's bowled, let me just check this, he's bowled 56 overs in total across the 2 matches, and he's only gone for 98 runs. So his economy's been 1.72. Obviously, he's only picked up 2 wickets, but I think there's something to be applauded there in terms of Ashmead Ned. And clearly, I must say as well, that Ashmead Ned looks far fitter. He looks like he's taking his cricket more seriously in terms of his actual fitness as well. So, I mean, that's to be applauded. And then also I want to shout out Ramon Simmons. Now, again, anybody who's a long-time listener of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, you'll know that we've been shouting out Ramon Simmons for a while now. When we had Jake Lush McCrum, the CEO for the Royals franchise. So for those who are wondering, that's the Barbados Royals, the Rajasthan Royals, etc. When we had him on, he was waxing lyrical about Ramon Simmons as well, and it was no surprise to see Ramon Simmons go from the Barbados Royals in CPL to the Pearl Royals in the South Africa T20 League as well. Ramon Simmons is a fantastic talent. My concern, and I've tweeted about it many a time, and I'm saying it now again in the video, if West Indies and Barbados by extension don't get to grips with Ramon Simmons now, we'll lose him to franchise cricket before he ever plays a game for West Indies. My personal opinion, and I started the video off by saying no hot takes, but my personal opinion is Ramon Simmons should be fast-tracked. We're looking for wicket-taking seamers, right? And whether that, I'm not saying that he's ready to play Test cricket, but certainly in white ball cricket, we're looking for wicket-taking options. And I've held a belief now for at least 6 months to a year that Ramon Simmons is there in plain sight. Yes, I know he's young. Yes, I know he's not got that much domestic experience, but the talent is obvious. People, again, those who listen to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast a lot, you'll know how I always talk about the eye test. Ramon Simmons passes my eye test. He doesn't have the game volume. He doesn't have the numbers yet to back him up at all facets of the formats of cricket. But I'm telling you now, it might take West Indies selectors another 2 years to realize this, like it took them too long to realize it with Tej Chandapur. But I'm telling you now, people, Ramon Simmons, the eye test has been passed. So he came into the match as a replacement for Kevin Pittman. He got injured in the game, and Simmons took 2 wickets early on the second day, I think it was. He's kind of classic in duckers. He's in swingers, I should say, left arm with his left arm bowling. Middle stump, leg stump, Yorker, call it what you want, but he produced that effectively 3 times in the match, and the batters had nothing. They couldn't do anything about it. So yeah, shout out for Ramon Simmons. Now, when the West Indies Academy came to bat, obviously the names that have stolen the kind of highlight reels and the people that everyone's been talking about coming out of that match, Kurt McKenzie with the double ton. Now, again, let me get this straight off the bat. Big up Kurt McKenzie. We know about Kurt McKenzie from under-19 cricket. We know that it's taken Kirk, like a lot of cricketers in the Caribbean, it's taken Kirk a while. He's 22 years old now. That under-19 World Cup was a while back. He's now played 4 list day games, 7 T20 and T20s, I should say. And after this match, it was his 6th first class match. He's one of the few in this West Indies Academy team that has actually played for his franchise. He played for Jamaica earlier this season. He didn't set the world on fire with Jamaica. He did score a 50, got one score of 56, which was his highest score, and he played 3 matches. So we know the talent is there for Kurt McKenzie. I am not here to poo-poo that 2-2-1. You could never do that. Anybody who scores 221, particularly at West Indies domestic level, you have to applaud it, you have to recognize it, and you have to note it down and say, okay, no one does that by fluke. There's a talent there. How can we harness it? And if there's ever a tagline that goes with the West Indies Academy, it's how do we harness it? The proof in these 2 matches against Team Weeks and Team Headley is in the pudding, right? In so much as this shows that the academy system that is operating out of Antigua and out of CCG is working. I'm not saying results is the only metric, and I'm sure if Chris Brabazon came on here, if Graham West came on here, if Jimmy Adams came on here, they would agree with me and say results is not the only metric of whether the academy process at CCG is working. But certainly, based on these 2 matches, there is clearly something going right in the way they are developing these youths at the academy. I said in the last video after West Indies Academy versus Team Headley that I'm worried about what happens next. And I have to state that again on this video. As great as Mackenzie's done with his double ton, and Kevlin Anderson a week ago with his century, and Johan Lane with his 5 for a Naeem Young, and Kevin Wickham's scored a maiden ton as well in this match. As good as they've done, I still must sound the warning klaxon. What happens next? And you lot should be saying to me, Mash, you go and find out, and I will. I'll reach out to Brabazon, I'll reach out to Graham West, I'll reach out to Jimmy and say, what's the plan? When July hits in 2023 and they have to effectively get a new cohort of youth, what's the plan? Do we just keep these youngsters in the system? Or do we have to bring in another set now of youngsters? Because I don't know. I don't know what the plan is going forward with these youths. All I do know is I have no faith in the franchises, whether that be Jamaica, Guyana, Barbados, Leeward, Windward, Trinidad. I have no faith in the franchise system to develop these youths correctly. That's all I know, right? But either way, like I say, big up Kurt McKenzie for the double ton, big up Kevin Wickham for the maiden century. In terms of the Team Weeks bowlers, obviously, Jair McAllister. I heard a rumor, I don't know how true it is, before Akeem Jordan got the call up to go to South Africa, I actually heard a rumor that selectors were looking at Jair McAllister. I don't know if that's true. It was certainly a rumor I was told. And one of the reasons they were looking at Jair McAllister is because they felt that West Indies needed a quick bowler on the South African decks, right? Because when you look at the West Indies test bowlers, you have Alzari Joseph, who's an out-and-out quick, Shannon Gabriel, who's an out-and-out quick, but that's it. And they were looking at allegedly, they were looking at taking Jair McAllister because when they looked at kind of talent in the region, they felt that, or if the rumor's true, they felt that McAllister was the next best bowler who could bowl at serious clicks. For those of you who watched him, who have either watched him in the regional tournament this year in the West Indies Championship, or for those of you who just watched him in this Team Weeks versus West Indies Academy, get at me in the comments below. What do you think about Jair McAllister's bowling? For Barbados this year, McAllister played all 5 matches and he took 18 wickets at 19 apiece at an economy of 2.96. So that, again, like I say, as much as I always say you can't just go by numbers in the Caribbean, clearly there is some talent there. So get at me in the comments below, people. What do you think about Jair McAllister? Obviously, for Sammy Permol did what he did. Take his usual kind of 3 for 4 for whatever it might be. And then Kevin Sinclair. Kevin Sinclair took 2 for 71. I'm going to say something now, people. If you believe that Roston Chase's position is under threat in the West Indies test setup, the obvious person to replace Roston Chase would be Rakeem Cornwall. If we're going to go another person in the Caribbean that can offer something with the bat and is a good off spinner. I'm not saying Roston Chase is, but if we go by the metric of how Roston Chase gets into the test side, Rakeem Cornwall would be the next person you turn to if you wanted a like-for-like replacement vis-a-vis Roston Chase. Now, obviously, Jimbo opted out of this particular Headley Week series. All I'm going to say to those of you watching, is Kevin Sinclair in the conversation? We know what he did in the championship this year. He turned up for Guyana with both bat and ball in the championship this year. Let me just find his numbers again. He was, you could argue, might have been the best, apart from Rakeem. You could argue he was the best all-rounder in the tournament in some regards, right? In terms of off-spinning all-rounder. Sinclair, this competition, 18 wickets at 17 apiece for Guyana. All 5 matches, 18 wickets at 17 apiece. Economy 2.47. And when then with the bat, where's his numbers with the bat? 285 runs at 32 apiece with 250s in there, highest score of 77 not out. And then in this match, obviously against the West Indies Academy, he's gone on to score 86 and then take 2 for 71. People, I know Sinclair, so I know, obviously, for again, those of you as proper students of West Indies cricket, we know that he got called up at the back end of last year in ODI cricket, and then somehow managed to just get dropped from the ODI team, which still hasn't been really explained. But here's my question. Is Sinclair an option in Test cricket? When you weigh up Roston Chase and Kevin Sinclair, obviously people are going to go Roston Chase has 5 Test match centuries. Sinclair's not as good a bat as Roston Chase. And I hear that. But Sinclair's a better off-spinner than Roston Chase. Is Sinclair's batting significantly weaker than Roston Chase's that you wouldn't consider Kevin Sinclair? If they're not going to pick Jimbo, which looks like they never will, is Kevin Sinclair an option, people? Get me in the comments below. Anyways, West Indies team Weeks then came to bat again. Like I say, it was a rain-truncated match. They made 107 for free. Tage got a 50. Zachary McCaskey made 31. And Joshua Bishop picked up 2 for 2 late on in the piece. And Ramon Simmons picked up another wicket. So, like I say, in the context of the match itself, not a whole lot you can take away from it and say it means this and it means that. And you lot know I'm loath to do the hot take thing. But certainly when I look at it, these are the main, I guess, takeaways I have. And so again, right, get your pad and your pen, people. These are the main takeaways I have. 1, Zachary McCaskey should go on whatever A-team tour takes place to Bangladesh. Whatever that squad is to go to Bangladesh, I think Zachary McCaskey should probably be there. With that 93 and 31, he's probably done enough to go as the opener, right? Brandon King should go to Bangladesh. Kevin Sinclair should go to Bangladesh. Jair McAllister should probably go to Bangladesh. And I'm not saying this because of what they've just done versus West Indies Academy. So before people comment below and go, oh, you said no hot takes, but you're just basing it off the scores in this match. No, I'm basing it off. Did these players have a good West Indies championship this year for their respective franchises? Yes. Have they then shown up in their first match in this Headley Week series? Yes. Brandon King didn't get to play in the West Indies championship due to West Indies duty. Has he shown up when he's been given opportunity? Yes. I couldn't care less now what Brandon King does against Team Headley. He has to go to Bangladesh to play in this A-team series. That's probably it from the team Weeks perspective. Some of you will say, what about Jamal Hamilton? All right, then. But remember, we have to remember, people, that we don't know what West Indies, what the selector's strategy is for this Bangladesh A tour. Is it prep for India? Is it being used as prep for India? Is it being used as an opportunity for youngsters to get a chance? Is it being used to look at the next cabs on the rank, so to speak? Should any of the test players fail? How much of that Bangladesh A squad should be made up of the current test squad? Because as I said in the last video, which I did on the Headley Week series, there's not much cricket these players can play prior to India turning up. Yes, there'll be camps and this, that. They might do a best versus best or intra-squad game, whatever it might be. But there'll be no actual competitive cricket taking place. So how many of the test players do you take to Bangladesh as prep for the India series? Or do we say bun the test players, bar one or two, and use it as a developmental tour for the next set of players? Not necessarily youngsters, but just the next set of players on the rank. Get at me in the comments below, people. Let me know. And then to end, kind of with what the videos should really be about more so than anything else. Is the academy the future? Is the future bright? When we had Graham West on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, and if you haven't listened to that episode, go, I think it's episode 71 or 72. Go back and listen to that episode on the podcast platform of your choosing. So if you're a Spotify person, if you're a Apple podcast person, if you're a Stitcher, this, that, or the other, go back and listen to that episode we had with Graham West, who effectively runs the academy. Go back and listen to the episode we did with Jimmy Adams, okay, who's director of cricket. As soon as you finish watching this video or listen to this episode, go and listen to the one with Graham West, go listen to the one with Jimmy Adams if you haven't already done so. And if you have listened to them, go and watch them again. Because what Graham West told us in that particular interview and what Jimmy told us in that interview is invaluable. You can't say to me that you're a keen student of West Indies cricket and you haven't gone to watch those videos. And that's not about plugging what we do on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, although I think we are the best at those kind of things when it comes to West Indies cricket. It's about, if you want to properly understand the developmental structures of the game in the Caribbean, those two interviews are crucial listening to really put things in perspective. Now, one point that both Graham West and Jimmy Adams made, which I think is bears reiterating in the context of this video, and I think Chris Brabazon made some similar points as well. What Cricket West Indies are currently putting in place at Coolidge Cricket Ground, vis-a-vis essentially making it the home of West Indies cricket in terms of making it have the facilities that it's almost like the template. CCG is almost like the template for the rest of the Caribbean. I think I've said this on previous videos. But one thing that they said in those interviews is they said, we're going to need about 10 to 15 years for all of these changes to really kind of seep in via osmosis to have the desired effect on West Indies cricket. And I remember those words because at the time, I don't know if I said it in the interview itself, but I certainly was thinking it, which is that we, not me, but you lot listening, as a West Indies public, are as impatient as hell. Like, if you don't see immediate results, if you don't see immediate impact, you're cussing out this man, you're cussing out that man, you're saying change that captain, you're saying change that coach, you're saying rip out all the pitches and plant Gandran and cassava, etc., right? If we believe that this West Indies Academy is really the future, then people, we got to bed in for the long haul, because it's not enough. It's never going to be enough to just look at them, how they've played against in these two matches against Team Weeks and Team Headley, and go, yes, just promote Kevin Wickham, just promote Kurt McKenzie, just promote Johan Lane. And sorry, I should have said at the top of the show, rest in peace to Johan Lane. I think it's his mother who passed away. Rest in peace, and all our thoughts are with him. But yes, blood him, and blood Joshua Bishop, and take this man on the A tour, and this, that. I hear the desire to say all those things, and I hear the desire to kind of look at our current senior guys and be like, boy, these men are rucks. Let's put all our kind of investment into the youths coming through. And I hear all that. But proper youth development, and that's in any sport, whether rugby, whether football, whether tennis, whatever, proper youth development means you commit to a process. You don't look at quick win. You don't look at quick win and say, well, Rod, this youth played well this one game. Now let's just dash man straight into the senior setup because, boy, what else are we going to do? That's the quick win. You stay committed to the process. The one thing that we should be clear about in West Indies cricket for the last 23 plus years is that for every Jayden Seals and for every Alzari Joseph, we can think of another 10 man who he dashed into the system early. And by the time they reach 25, 26, they're done out here. Jayden Seals and Alzari Joseph were exceptions to the rule. And even with Alzari, if we're going to be honest, even with Alzari's 25 now. Remember, we dashed Alzari in straight out of under 19 into the senior setup, right? How long did it take Alzari Joseph to find his true form in Test cricket? This year maybe the last 7 months. In the last 7 to 12 months, Alzari has found his true form, his true self, his true understanding of his game with the red ball, yeah? That's at the age of 25. We dashed Alzari in at 19. So it took Alzari Joseph 6 years learning on the job to know his true self. Me, I don't want to see any of that stuff anymore. Yes, Jaden Seals, generational talent. Obviously, he's out injured at the moment. But we got to... Those type of things, a Seals and a Joseph, you're lucky if those things happen. That's not a process. That's a Hail Mary pass. I'll say that again. That's not a process. That's a Hail Mary pass where you go, boy, you lot are talented. What else can we do? Come in, my youth. Let's see if you can do anything. And then more often than not, they're on the scrap heap by 26. Look at someone like Adrian Barrath. I know we found God and stuff, but we've got examples of youths where it didn't work, where we dashed them in too early because there was no clear process. We love to hear it in football. Those of you who are Arsenal fans, Mikel Arteta, trust the process. But trust the process is actually a legit phrase. And in West Indies cricket, whether you feel the West Indies Academy is the future or not, whether you feel these set of players are the future or not, so whether you feel Kurt McKenzie is the future, whether you feel Kevin Wickham is the future, whether you feel Ramon Simmons is the future, whether you feel Kevlin Anderson is the future, trust the process rather than trying to fast track these youths. And this is why I go back to one of the earlier points I made. What's the plan when it gets to July? Are they going to bring in a new set of 15 to 20 youngsters and say to Kevlin Anderson and co, right, we helped you now. Off you go back to your franchises, to your territories to try and develop your game? Or is the best plan to keep the best? So from this year's program that these youths have been involved with West Indies Academy, is the best plan now to identify who are the best 6 or 7 that you saw this year? Keep them in the program, bring in now another 7 or 8 or whatever it might be. And also, just to reiterate, final point, I said this would be 20 minutes. Look at the time, it's 27. Just to reiterate a final point as well. I hope that Cricket West Indies have seen enough so that by the time we come round to the next West Indies Championship, the academy team should just play it. Rather than I know they're going to want to do this Headley Weeks thing again, but hopefully they've seen enough to say to themselves, you know what, let's just put an academy team in. Yes, they'd have to be based out of Antigua. Yes, I know the Leeward Islands already have Antigua as a home base already, but maybe the best plan, Jimmy, if you're listening, make the academy play the first class season. They already played the Super 50, and yes, they only won 1 game. But that was a learning curve for the youths. Just like Headley Weeks was a learning curve for the youths. Maybe the best way forward now is a permanent place in Super 50 in West Indies Championship for these academy youths. People, I've been Machel St. Patrick here at one half the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. As ever, get at me in the comments below. At us at Twitter and Instagram at Carib Cricket. You can see it on the ticker tape at the bottom. And as ever, like I say, like, share, subscribe to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Hit that bell. And that way you can always get notified when a new episode is out. And as ever, if you want to support us, you can head to www.patreon.com/Carib Cricket to help us in whatever which way you want, as little as $1 a month. Hell, every little bit helps, you know. You can find us on Facebook as well, people. I always forget to plug that. Just search Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Do you know what? Just go into Google and put Caribbean Cricket Podcast and you'll find everything that we do. I'll be Machel St. Patrick here, one half the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Thank you and good night.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.